Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. Chris here with another video. I got another tower machine, and this was a fun one actually. I really enjoyed working on this machine over the last little while. So, got this cool case here. We'll take a look on the front end. Multi-burner, not a lot of other stuff going on here. We got our power button. We've got some ports on the front here. These actually don't work though, and we'll get as to why that is. Kind of a neat case design here. We've got these little clips here to open up the side panel. Instead of screws or thumb screws even. At the rear of the system here, we'll get our power connector. We've got a bunch of connections here, PS2, DisplayPort, VGA, a bunch of USB ports, Ethernet, and some more audio ports, and then a fan and stuff. And here, let's take a look and see what's going on when we actually remove this panel here. There's some interesting stuff going on inside. Maybe not your standard layout for a system. Here, let's get a little bit closer. So, what's actually going on in here is this, the guts, I mean, what's going on in here, came out of a Dell Optiplex 790 small form factor desktop that I received in a donation from a gentleman in Whitby, and it had a dead power supply. I looked online in terms of what it would take to replace power supplies for that particular model, and they're actually like $70, $80 for a replacement aftermarket, which is ridiculous. So I thought to myself, what could you do? You're not going to be able to locate a power supply that's going to be able to fit the exact form factor dimensions of that Dell Optiplex small form factor chassis. Can you remove that computer from the case and install it into a standard size case? And under normal circumstances, this usually isn't a big issue, except with OEMs like Dell, HP, Lenovo, sometimes you run into a problem of proprietary connectors, and that is almost always a case with Dell. They've got a lot of proprietary connectors. Fans, the headers that they use for fans, so let me just quickly disconnect. So this 5-pin connector here for the fans is proprietary to Dell, and if you want to use this fan, say in another machine, or you want to use a standard fan and plug it into that header, you have to change around the pin the pin connectors to be able to make it work. So that's always an issue. The other piece, the power button is proprietary. That's this connector down here, and then the front panel connectors here have a proprietary connector, which is down. You can kind of see right there, kind of right beside the SATA connectors. So I had to do quite a bit of moving things around. So you also see like the cooling block here. The processor is actually under this, and it's got this cooling block here that actually used to have this fan connected up to it, which was a blower, right? This is a blower fan, so it sucks air in and then pushes it out, and it would push out the back of the case. But there's a front panel connector there now, and this fan in the way. So what I did was I took the case fan and I zip tied it to this and plugged it into the CPU header, and they're the same. And I flipped it upside down so it would blow air up, and then this will blow that air out. Then I took the CPU fan and I put a grill on it here so you wouldn't, no one would hurt themselves. I attached it to a PCI bracket, and I affixed that to the system, so that's going to suck air in and push it out the back as well. If you ever added a graphics adapter or something, that hopefully would help with some cooling as well on this machine, and then that uses the same connector. I took the front panel power and I actually soldered it to the power switch on the opposite end. So there's actually a power switch kind of inside the machine back here, but I soldered that on so that you could power it on from the front without having to worry about any errors. And then I hooked the front panel connector here and zip tied it inside the case. That way there's no errors. And if you ever did want to connect up like a wireless keyboard or mouse, you could actually plug those into one of these USB ports here, put the case back on, and you wouldn't have to see it. So the only hindrance really is the fact that on the front of the system, there's no LEDs that are active, and the front panel audio and USB connectors don't work. Otherwise, this machine functions perfectly. So I'm going to get it set up with the monitor, keyboard, and mouse that it's going to get donated with, and we'll take a look at some specs. Okay, we have everything hooked up. I figured it would make sense to use some associated peripherals. So we have this Dell flat panel, I think 17-inch monitor, And then we've got a Dell USB optical mouse, which I'm pretty sure never actually been used before. And then I didn't have any Dell keyboards, so we've got this Logitech USB keyboard as well. I'll hit the power button. And you'll see that the system is powering up, but there's no front panel indicators that the system is actually running other than that. But here we go. Yeah, system is booting up. Pretty good. So the next thing I do is we'll get a little bit closer here. We'll take a look at hardware info and do our crab rave test. Taking a look at specs and hardware info, we've got an Intel Pentium G860 processor. This is a Sandy Bridge, right? LGA 1155. So we're running at 2.9 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, dual core. What's great about this machine as well, if you did, want to take a look at older machines like this, the 790 boards, you can put like a 2600, 2400, quad core i5, i7 processor in this and get good performance out of it. Because it's an OEM board, there's not going to be any overclocking capability. So you're kind of at a hindrance there, but if you're looking for something cheap that's going to do a little bit of work, that's going to be fine. And you can get up to 16 gig of RAM on this, right? There's 4 memory DIMM slots, so 4 gig DIMMs is going to get you good performance, and then you've got PCI slots available, and then whatever PSU you're going to have to be able to run a decent GPU. So there is that option available for a system like this in the future for whoever's going to get it to be able to do some future upgrades and keep some more life on. As is, it does have the onboard HD Graphics 2000. There's 4 gig of RAM installed, 2 gig DIMMs running in dual channel, and then for storage I've got a 250 gig SATA hard drive and then that multi-burner. There are 3 SATA ports on the system, so you could actually have the multi-burner and then an SSD and a storage drive, SATA drive for your games or whatever as well. So there's some life still left in this after its time as a basic computer maybe isn't quite over yet. So yeah, there it is. Let's take a look and see how it handles crab rave. So we've got our crab rave test up and ready to go here. Our viewport is a 720p on this 1280 by whatever 1024 17-inch LCD, but we're gonna try 1080p and see how it handles itself. And looking pretty good so far, crisp and clean. That's what I would expect anyway. When you get to like a Sandy Bridge, Ivory Bridge, Sandy Bridge, Haswell processors, you're at the point where these processors have all the instruction sets that they need to be able to handle modern online streaming, etc. So you're not going to have the CPU trying to work overtime to get something done, like if you're still back at the Core 2 Duo time frame where it just doesn't have the instructions built in, so it has to do that extra software churn. Yeah, so this works out really well. So that completes my review of this conversion, I guess, from a Dell Optiplex 790 small form factor into this alternative case. Worked out very well, actually. And yeah, if you're thinking about doing something like this, then at least you know that it is physically possible. There are some things you have to worry about and work through, especially the fact that you're not going to have front panel connectors to work with. The job of like trying to solder those connector points on that dedicated dongle, I frankly don't think it's worth the time. If you're going down that path, you might as well just get yourself a normal board. As always, I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.